Thank you very much. Boy, 2020 was a weird year. For most of us, it was the year when we get stuck at home. We were bored and we were trying to find something to do. And some people started watching a lot of Netflix. Some people were playing a lot of video games, or at least buying video games. And I'm looking at used Steam sales and my library of games I bought and I will never play. And some people started gambling. I mean, day trading, because that's how it's officially called. Here you can see the number of active users on Robinhood, which is one of the platforms for buying and selling stocks commission-free. For me, 2020 was special. It was a year when I released my first side project that was supposed to bring me some money. And you see, as a software developer, I always had this dream of having a software side project that I will build once, and then I can infinitely sell it to people, make money without having to do any more work. And my dream came true in the second part of 2019, when I had some free time and I was killing it. I was wasting it on day trading, so buying and selling single stocks basically every day. I was picking up stocks based on something called technical analysis. So you're trying to predict how a price of a given stock will behave in the future, given how it behaved in the past. And there are many tools to choose from if you want to do technical analysis. But the one that I chose was called harmonic patterns. So with harmonic patterns, basically, you check if the price, if the price goes up, and then if it goes down by the specific percentage of the previous movement, then it goes up again by some ratio of the previous movements, then it goes down again by some ratio, then there is supposed to be a higher than usual chance that the price will start going up again. And I mean, the details don't matter here. Like, trust me, day trading is not a good way to spend time or money if you're bad at day trading. But I didn't know that yet. So instead, I was sitting in front of my computer and drawing those stupid lines whole day. So I've decided I'm going to automate the drawing part. And like most of the day traders, I was using a platform called TradingView, which is a pretty good tool available for free in your browser. So I wrote 2 scripts for automatically drawing those harmonic patterns on the charts. And once I had those, I thought, well, I have those scripts, and maybe someone else also wants to use them. Because harmonic patterns was not something I invented. This was like a theory that was already known, and someone came up with this idea a long time ago. So I thought maybe other people want to also automate this whole drawing process. So I created a website. I connected Gumroad to collect payments. I published some articles explaining how to use my scripts. And then I also published some posts on TradingView to promote my scripts. And I waited, and I waited, and around 2 weeks later, I got an email from Gumroad that someone paid money for something that I did. So I was like super excited, even though later on I had to give back those $29 because someone asked for a refund. But it was the first time I sold a piece of software on the internet, so it felt great. So I immediately started imagining, what am I going to buy myself with all this money that I'm making with my sweet passive income? Except that my new income wasn't passive and it wasn't sweet either. So I started getting a lot of emails with all sorts of questions. And it doesn't matter that I had articles describing how the scripts work. Some people prefer to just send me an email asking all their questions instead of trying to figure it out and actually read the description. Another common email was to get free access to scripts. So I started getting emails like, hey, I'm a poor student, so I cannot afford your scripts, but I still want to gamble with my money. Can I have free access? And of course, some people were asking for new features. Sometimes those features made sense, but quite often they were super specific to one use case, so it didn't make sense to implement it for others. And some people were straight away asking for financial advice, or should I buy this stock, should I sell that stock? So I tried to answer most of those emails, especially when I wanted to explain to people why they shouldn't use my scripts to blindly buy and sell stocks. But that was taking a lot of time. And quite often I would exchange multiple messages with someone and they never turned out to be a customer. When I was not answering emails, I was doing other fun stuff like fighting chargebacks. So I tried to be nice with people, and each time someone asked for a refund, I was giving them their money back. No questions asked. And still, I would have people who, instead of asking for a refund, if they didn't like the script, they didn't even contact me, they just went straight away for the chargeback. That's not how chargeback works. You have to actually try to contact the merchant. So I was winning all those chargeback cases, but I still had to go to Gumroad, explain them what happened, and collect all the documentation, so that was taking time. And I also had to deal with fraud when people try to use stolen credit cards to pay for the scripts. So I got this one guy. He seemed to be a nice customer because we exchanged a couple of messages. But then one day I got a message from Gumroad saying that he asked for a chargeback. So I asked him, hey, what's going on? And he told me, yeah, this is my wife. She controls the finances. And I forgot to tell her that I bought some scripts on TradingView. OK, suspicious, but it can happen. And then I got another message from Gumroad saying that he tried to pay with a stolen credit card. So I asked him, why is your wife now stealing credit cards? But he never got back to me. So then I started a new full-time job. So I completely gave up the day trading because it was not worth my time. But I still had people sending me all those emails with questions, people asking for a trial access to my scripts and things like that. And the worst part was that I lost interest in this project. I wasn't using my scripts anymore. I didn't want to spend time and energy developing them. And so I felt I was burning out on this project, and I had to do something. My first idea was to sell it. So I posted some ads with all the information about my project on some websites for selling online businesses. But I didn't get any serious offer. And in the hindsight, that's kind of expected. People want to buy simple, low-risk projects built with boring technology that they can maintain and develop. My project was written in this esoteric language called PineScript that is used for writing scripts on the TradingView platform. Then it was running on a proprietary platform called TradingView, where they can ban you one day without giving you a reason, and suddenly you lose everything. And then it was also targeting a very specific niche of traders. So no one wants to buy that. So no one wanted to buy my project. I didn't want to maintain that project, but I also didn't want to close it because at that time it was bringing me around $500 per month. So I decided that I'm going to do what probably every software developer will do. So I was going to turn on the autopilot, and I was going to automate everything. So I needed a way to automatically give people access to the scripts when they start paying, and to remove their access when they stop paying. And also, I needed to find a better way to give them a trial access instead of asking them to send me an email, then me going to TradingView and clicking things there. I could write everything in Python, but I didn't want to. I was already looking for an excuse to test those no-code or low-code automation tools like n8n, Make, or Zapier, where you just connect together blocks that integrate with external services. So I would still have to write a bit of Python code to interact with the TradingView website, but everything else, like sending welcome emails or processing notifications from Gumroad, this could be implemented without me writing any code. So that looked like a good solution. And I decided to go with n8n, because at that time it was truly open source, and I could host it myself. So checking it out wouldn't cost me anything. So my first task was to automate giving people access to the scripts when they pay for it. So people would go to my website, then they could buy the subscription with Gumroad as the payment processor. And when they did that, I used a feature called Gumroad Ping, which means that Gumroad would send me a request to a webhook that I had in n8n. So then n8n would run some Python code, grant access to the user, and then send them the welcome email. So I started by writing some Python code to automate the interactions with the browser. I used a library called Puppeteer, which is a Python bindings on top of a Puppeteer library that allows you to control the browser automatically. I think Puppeteer is now not maintained anymore, so I would probably use Playwright instead if I was doing it today. So here is the code to log into TradingView. As you can see, so I have some URLs that I define. I read the username and password from the environment, and then I have the login page. And basically, I just do the steps in the browser. So I go to the login URL, I click sign in with email, I wait for the input field where I put my username and password. Then I click the button, I click submit, and then I wait until the form is submitted, and I go to the main page. And this logging function was used, for example, in a function to give someone access to my script. So here you can see we are first launching the browser, then we use the function that we saw a moment ago to log in, and then we use a helper function to check if the user has access, and the helper function looks like this. So here I'm preparing a payload with data, and then I am sending this data with a POST request using some JavaScript code. This might look like a, here I'm constructing the form with the JavaScript. So it might look like a terrible overkill, but because I'm executing JavaScript in the context of the browser where I'm already logged in, I don't have to worry about setting the correct headers, sending the session cookies and things like that. I just copied whatever parameters are being sent in my browser when I do this manually on the TradingView website. I copied the parameters to my script, and that works like a charm. Now, back to our add function. This is actually the whole body of the function, but that's a lot of code. So if we squint our eyes, this is actually what happens in terms of the pseudocode. So we open the browser, we log in. If the user has access, we just return a message that everything is fine. We remove the trial. If we want to give the user a trial access, we give them access for 7 days. Sometimes I want to give access for arbitrary number of days. If no parameter is passed, I just give them the permanent access. So that's pretty much all the code for the adding access. And then to make it easier to run my functions in n8n, I decided to add a CLI so I could run my commands from the shell. So here I use the click library, and then I just pass a bunch of arguments. And then I just parse those parameters. So I check if this is a trial access or maybe if it's like a date. And then I run my add access function that we saw on the previous slide. Here, for comparison, I have the function to remove access. And then again, I just pass 2 parameters, the name of the user, the name of the script. And I pass those parameters to remove access function. So now that I had the Python code ready, I could execute it from shell. So I put it in this code block from n8n. So here is the function. And all that was left to do was to build the rest of the automation. So here's the whole workflow. So here I'm getting the webhook from Gumroad, extracting some parameters just to make checks easier. I check if it's a recurring payment or not. If it's a recurring payment, I send myself a notification that, hey, someone is still paying you money. If it's a new payment, I send myself a message saying you have a new user. I give them the access. I send myself a message that access was granted. And then depending whether it's script 1 or script 2, I send them 1 of 2 welcome messages, and then I send myself another notification on Telegram. So for getting notifications, I decided to use Telegram. And with Telegram, you can very easily create a bot. You just start a chat with something called bot fodder. You click create a new bot, you answer 2 questions, and you get the API to control your bot and also a link to a chat with your bot. And I was sending myself a lot of notifications on Telegram, so basically after every important step of the workflow. And that was to make sure that everything works fine. So for example, if I got a notification that I got a new user and the access was granted, but I didn't get the 3rd notification, I knew that something went wrong with sending emails. So I could log into my email provider and send the welcome email by hand, but then I knew that I have to see what broke. So sending myself messages on Telegram was kind of my way of debugging my workflows. So once I got everything working on my computer, I was ready to deploy my application. I had a small VPS from Linode that I was already using for other projects. So I decided I'm going to host n8n there too. And even though it's like the smallest VPS, it costs like $5 per month. This is even more than enough to host n8n. And then I followed the guide explaining how to set up n8n on a DigitalOcean using Docker container. And even though the tutorial says DigitalOcean, you can use whatever hosting you want. It doesn't really matter. The tutorial also recommends something called Caddy, which I didn't know before, but it's a really nice reverse proxy server that will automatically create and update the SSL certificates. So I don't even have to go through this Let's Encrypt process. So that's a really nice solution. But then there was one problem. Locally, I could use whatever Python package I wanted, but how do I get those packages installed on n8n on a remote server? I thought, well, I'm already using Docker for n8n, so I can just create my own Docker image with all the necessary packages. And that's what I did. So the way it works, I'm using n8n as a base image, then I install Python and pip. I add some additional dependencies for the Pipetteer. I install the requirements. I copy the requirements. I install the Python libraries. Then I copy the rest of my files, and I use the endpoint from the n8n image. And I didn't want to build this Docker image manually, so I added a GitHub CI workflow that would automatically build and store the Docker image in GitLab registry. So with this workflow in place, if I needed to fix some bugs in my Python scripts or maybe update n8n version, all I have to do is to push new version of the code to GitLab, and GitLab will automatically build the Docker image for me. Now, if I wanted to grab that updated Docker image on my VPS, I could SSH there, I could run Docker pull and restart the containers, but I could automate that too. So there is this really nice tool called Watchtower, and it will check if there is a newer version of a Docker image that you are using, and if there is, it will pull that newer version and it will gracefully restart your running containers. And the best part is that you don't have to configure anything for the Watchtower. You just add Watchtower to your Docker compose file, and it will use the Docker API to see what images you are using and where they are being pulled from. So here's my Docker compose file. First part is n8n, where I'm mostly setting up some environment variables. And then there is Watchtower with configuration that was just copied from the documentation, and it works. So now if I need to update the code, I modify it and I test it locally on my computer. Then I push it to GitLab, and after around 5 minutes, I can already see the new code available in my remote n8n instance. And that was it. So each time someone bought a subscription on Gumroad, this workflow was automatically giving them access on TradingView, sending them a welcome email, and sending me all those Telegram notifications. So then I automated trials so that I don't have to manually go and give people 7-day access when they ask it. And that was also like a huge time sink for me because not many of those trial not many people who requested trial were turning into paying customers. So I created an online form where people could ask for a trial for one of my scripts simply by entering their TradingView username. And all those usernames were stored in Airtable, which is quite a popular tool to create spreadsheets and connect them to third-party applications. And then I created a new n8n workflow. So each time there was a new entry in my Airtable spreadsheet, my workflow would run the CLI command to give someone 7-day access and send me a notification on Telegram. Yeah, and because Airtable doesn't have a built-in way to prevent people from submitting the same username multiple times, the obvious thing happened, and I started getting every week a notification that the same guy is getting trial access instead of paying. So I just had to replace Airtable with something called JotForm that works pretty much in the same way, but has this unique constraint built in so you can prevent multiple submissions. And JotForm works in the same way. You have a form, then you have a spreadsheet, and n8n also have a JotForm trigger, so replacement was very easy. And I also had to deal with canceled subscriptions. So from time to time, someone would not extend their subscription for another month, so I had to log into TradingView and revoke their access to the script. I could not use Gumroad Ping because it only works for new subscriptions. I could use the full Gumroad API. So Gumroad has an API that you can use to get basically any type of information about your customers, your products, your sales, and so on. I could query this API on a regular basis, and then I would check if some of my customers recently canceled. But that was also much more complex than using the simple webhook. So I didn't feel like implementing this whole setup with the API just so once or twice per month I can cancel someone's subscription. You see, when people buy something, they usually want to have access to it as soon as possible. And some people are very impatient, so if I was doing this manually, someone would buy subscription when I was sleeping, and 5 minutes later, they would be sending me an email, hey, why I still don't have access? But removing access is not urgent. I mean, people won't send me an email saying, I stopped paying and I still have access, that's outrageous. So if they have a free access for 1 or 2 more days, that's fine with them. And also, it doesn't matter for me, because it costs me nothing to keep them in the system for a few more days. So I didn't have to automate removing access. All I had to do was to make it more convenient than having to open my computer, log into TradingView, and click things there. So I decided I'm going to use my Telegram bot and make him do the work. So I created another simple workflow that allowed me to send messages back to my Telegram bot. So whatever message I was sending to my Telegram bot, it was being executed as a command by my Python CLI, and then the response was being sent back to me. So this is an example of a chat with my bot. So you can see I could say remove user A from script 1, and he did that, remove user B from script 2. I was also getting like some notifications when someone bought access and also when someone requested the trial. And the best thing is that I have Telegram on my phone. So when I get an email from Gumroad that someone canceled their subscription, it takes me around 10 seconds to just type a message to my Telegram bot and revoke their access. And that was it. So I gradually stopped answering emails from the window shoppers, and I focused on my existing customers. And because I haven't been updating my scripts for a long time, they no longer look new and fresh on TradingView, so I get much less customers nowadays. But I don't care. This year, I spent maybe 1 hour on this project, and that was just answering emails and revoking some access. And I will probably keep this project running until it stops bringing money, and then I will close it. And I started building this project in 2020, so you might be wondering how well did it stand the test of time? So how much work does it take to maintain a project like that? I mean, the automations part. Frankly, not a lot of work. Like, I haven't touched the source code for 2 years, and also I haven't updated n8n for 2 years, and it just works. So once I put the initial effort to build everything, then everything runs on autopilot. And I learned a lot on this. I learned a lot from this project. So here are a couple of things to keep in mind if you're thinking about monetizing a project. So building something that someone else will pay for is hard, but maintaining this thing is much harder. People will ask for features that don't make any sense, and they will get very angry when you say no. You can write documentation, you can put articles, you can record videos, and people will still send you an email saying, how does it work? So you need to set boundaries, otherwise all those potential customers they will take much more time than you are willing to spend. I genuinely like to help people, so I wanted to answer all those emails, especially when I wanted to explain someone why my scripts are not a good idea for them if they don't know what they are doing. But that was just taking too much time. So I started telling myself that I will only answer emails from non-customers once per week and then once per month. And yeah, maybe I lost some potential customers, but I got so much free time and so much focus back that for me that was completely worth it. Another idea is to put some small obstacle for your potential customers to filter out the worst ones. For me, that was the trial forum. So I had a small form where you had to just leave your TradingView username to get 7-day free access. No credit card required, no commitment. I put information about this on the website, on the TradingView, and to this day, I still get comments on TradingView and messages like, hey bro, can I test this script? I don't want to deal with those type of people, and they will rarely turn into customers, and even if they do, I don't want them as customers. Like, you will spend countless amount of time answering their questions, and at the end they will ask you for something stupid that you should implement. You will tell them no, and they will cancel and give you 1-star review on Gumroad. Just for comparison, like, the vast majority of my paying customers never send me an email. Like, I have people who use my scripts for months or for years, and we never spoke. Best customers ever. And maintaining a project that you no longer use is also very hard because you lack passion for it. When I started, I was building this for myself, so I got a lot of enthusiasm, plenty of ideas for improvements, because I was sure I will be using my scripts for years. Half a year later, I'm not using my scripts, and I still have paying customers. So for me, I was lucky because it was easy to automate it. And I'm not saying that you should automate your project from the beginning, because spending time on automating something when you don't even have paying customers is a waste of time. But be prepared that you might lose passion for your project, or other things might come up. So at that point, you better have automation, otherwise you're going to start burning out. And I was hesitating if n8n is the best tool when I was starting the automation. What about Make, Zapier, or one of the 100 other tools? It turns out it doesn't matter which tool you choose. You can even use multiple different tools to automate multiple different things. You could, for example, start with the free tier of make.com. So you don't have to maintain your own n8n instance. And when your usage exceeds the free tier, you can decide, do you want to pay for the higher tier, or maybe you want to self-host n8n. And that's all I have for you. If you like my story and you want to learn more, I actually have 2 articles on my blog where I go into much more details into how I built it and how I automated it. And there are many more interesting stories, like people writing to me in Turkish, or someone offering me a full-time job writing Python scripts. So yeah, it was a fun adventure for me. I can recommend those 2 blogs. You can find the repository with the code for this presentation here. This is not the code behind my project, but this is enough of the code to give you an overview of how to automate a project like that. Some attributions, and we actually have some time for questions.
Yes, we have time for like a few questions. If anyone has a question, please go to the mic.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Question, since you know how to code, why use a low or no code solution?
Because it's faster and it's easier. Connecting this block to sending email is just giving your email credentials and pasting the text there. I wanted to avoid having to maintain a Python project. I wasn't sure if n8n would be the best solution, but it seems to be working quite well.
And the second one, have you considered like hiring somebody to do the maintenance?
I was earning way too little money on this project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There's a question on Discord. I find your talk about falling out of love with your own project quite powerful. Would you keep it running if you had one silent, but if you have one silent but paying customer?
It's a tricky question. Depends, because there are like some months where I get a lot of stupid questions, or when I hate this project more and I want to close it, and there are some months where it runs on the autopilot. So really depends, but I think if I had one customer, I would close it.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
So I don't have much experience with monetizing projects, but I tend to believe that the go-to was Stripe to handle payment. Is there any difference or like benefits one over the other, or?
That's an excellent question, and an answer is kind of long. I used Gumroad because it was easier. They were a merchant of record for me. So basically, I send invoices for Gumroad. I don't have to deal with calculating VAT taxes for customers all around the world. So merchant of record, their fees are ridiculous. I think I'm paying like 15% on each sale. So if I was earning more money, I would switch to Stripe and Stripe also didn't have subscriptions when I started. So if I were starting today, I might go with Stripe, or maybe I would start with Gumroad and then switch to Stripe.
All right, thank you. This is all the time we have for questions. So thanks, Sebastian, once again.